Hello again. In this video we're going to cover why you need a second flexible reversionary trust. So over here we explained how these trusts work, and the benefit being that you can get capital back or a percentage of your capital back on a regular basis, and if you needed it all back you could pretty much get it back over a period of 7 years. Let's say a person went into a care home or something like that. It would mean they would have their access to their money, but if they never ever needed it again, which is the case for the majority of clients, then that money sits outside of the estate, same as it would in a normal trust after 7 years. So why do you need two? Well, because they're single settler trusts, you're limited to each trust of 325,000, which, although a significant amount of money, the benefit of having two is, of course, that you could, if there were capital gains tax issues between selling down assets, let's say somebody's got mainly property and they wanted to sell down a property to fund these trusts, then they could sell down one property in 1 year and another property in the next financial year, and then the first person, let's say that the male spouse does it in year 1 and the female spouse does it in year 2. Or if they're selling down quite an expensive property, then of course, if it's possible, they could maybe even find an investor to sell that property and sell half in 1 year and half in the next year, thus mitigating an awful lot of capital gains tax. So whether it's done across 2 financial years or 1 financial year is dependent to quite a large degree on capital gains tax issues, and that would be covered with you on a personal basis as to what was best. But mainly we nearly always recommend 2 plans as opposed to 1, because it just gives more flexibility, that's all. And because it's a single settler trust, if, let's say, as we've said in the planning, the male spouse dies first, then the entire proceeds of that trust are available to his spouse, as opposed to just 1/7 of it while he's alive. So you can see that makes sense to have 2 rather than 1, and that's why we advise to do it in that way. But once again, the actual plan that that is set up to set these trusts up are regulated, and this should not be regarded as regulated advice, but purely and simply generic how these flexible reversionary trusts work in a planning environment.